So here's just a quick little note if people are still having issues getting tight continuous loops. So I have issues with my wrist, as you've probably seen. And so the reason this is relevant here is because they definitely go up and down. They're always challenging, but they can be more challenging, which means that I actually have a few different ways to do different techniques that work for me, because the same one doesn't always work all the time. So I put some of these light blue beads, these Soul Gels, onto this dark purple wire, which I thought for some reason would be a good thing to show up on the camera. We'll see, won't we? So here's how I get it done to make them tight, and so there's not as much gappage. Okay, so let's measure it out. Let's keep our wire straight. Now, one way to straighten out your wire real fast, like what I just did for me, you know, suppose your wire's weird, is to actually take a little piece, like a few beads in, this is a separate thing, but in between your finger that here, and actually use the beads to straighten the wire. So that's a quick way to get a nice straight wire. There are wire straighteners, and I have some. Never used one. Don't even know where it is right now. I think it's over in that pile of miscellaneous things I bought to make things easier that I never use, which is growing. So, and the bigger, of course, well, it depends. The small ones are a pain in the neck too. There's like the good middle ground is like the 2-inch continuous loop, right? 5 inches is kind of a pain in the neck. Oh, I grabbed 5 inches exactly. Interesting. Okay, so that's good. So I'm going to do a kind of an ungainly one, a 5-incher. Now, it's on this dark wire, so hopefully you can see what's going on with it. So I like to wrap away from me because my wrist. So again, this is, you can adapt to what's easier for your wrist. So I bring it underneath, which I showed it. I know I showed in the video, but the one thing I just wanted to highlight is once I get it there, I do like a crossover. And I didn't really show this that well, and I'm not going to be able to because it's hard to do with letting go. So it's crossed over with this one, the one I just did underneath. And then so I hold it like that. Right now it's really loose, right? It's really loose. So I'm gonna use the beads against each other by putting it on this finger and kind of pinching at this point. Now, once I get it scooted up by pinching it and holding the beads so that the two bottom beads run into each other, so they're pinched and they can't go past each other. So I get to that resistance point. And then at this point, I hold it here. It's hard to do and show it. And I take this thumb, my non-twisting thumb, and I put it into the V. And I use that. I'm holding these wires here, using some tension on them, pulling them back, and I'm holding them there, and I'm pushing this. This is a lot easier when I'm not stopping to show it, so trust me, it's not as... So I'm holding it, and you can see right now, you can see how my thumb is actually being pushed down by this. The white on the thumb, you can actually see how it's being pushed in there. And I'm holding the two wires on either side of my thumb in here. Now, I have horrible fingers along with basically all my joints. I've had arthritis since I was 1.5 years old. Yes, literally 1.5 years old. It happens. So anyhow, so all the joints are a little bit weird, so let's just go with that. So anyway, so my fingers don't do as well as normal people too. So I always assume that if I can do it, a lot of people can probably do it also. That might not be the correct assumption. So I'm holding it here, and again, I don't want to push it too hard because I'm playing these two beads off of each other so that they don't pass each other. But right now, there's no gappage because of these two beads touching each other. And now I do my twist, and I will do the initial one, still holding this, and then pinching at the top with my fingers, and then twist, right? And then after that, we can straighten and do our thing, and as you probably figured out, I really like it to be straight. So let's get one of these guys out of here. And then I make my little loop. And because my fingers are so weird, as discussed in previous videos, I might have to bite it. So do a little bite, and then there's our straight loop. Now, as you go, you might have to adjust this because when they crowd in on each other, there can be issues with that, right? So you'll have to adjust, but the main thing is playing those two bottom beads off of each other. So again, we're going to grab about 5 inches. Maybe I already measured it. Maybe I was impressed with myself for getting 5 inches and I'd already measured it. I don't know. It's just a little game with myself. It's not like I'm like, oh, look, I got 5 inches. I just, It's a little game as I go. Now, is to see how close I can get to things and estimates and things. Okay, so now we're doing our next one. The first one has its own set of issues because it's floppy and there's nothing to go against. The next one, you have to deal with this being in your way, basically. It can give you other things to hold on to, though. So you see right now, I'm about 1/4 of an inch on this fingertip over here, about on that purple wire, about 1/4 of an inch of bare wire. So I'm pushing at this time, so you can see this. I'm pushing with my finger to hold that bead there, right? And I'm really using that. So I'm going to come around behind it again. And while I'm pinching it, it's kind of hard to show the pinching. I'm doing that same thing under my thumb. I would be pinching it right now, but I'm going to show you. I'm trying to pull those 2 bottom beads so that there's resistance again. And once I hit that resistance, I know that I don't have any gappage up here. And I have that resistance of the 2 bottom beads against each other. And then I'm going to move my thumb underneath, carefully, like making sure that these 2 bottom beads are still hitting each other. And like I said, trust me, if these weird hands can do it, that doesn't mean you can do it right away. That might be a weird holding thing, but it'll get to be natural to you. It really will. I mean, it's hard to remember now, but I'm sure I had some issues with continuous loops. I'm sure. And so now that it's like this, and especially with the 24 gauge wire, the issue with the 24 gauge wire is it's harder to twist, yet at the same time it's nicer that it holds together. Like I can hold this right now pretty well. So now that it's held like this, and normally it'd be kind of more under my thumb, I'm going to hold this and I can switch this underneath. Hold it like that so that these are still pushing against each other. And now I'm going to twist. And that keeps me pushing up on the bottom at the same time as I'm twisting. 2, 3, and I do like to do a little extra twists. So now I got my next one. Now, I don't always do the thumb underneath thing. That's up to you, too. Like sometimes, see, now this one's good. It has one right at top. I'm just going to, let's eliminate the middleman. I'm going to just bite it right away. Yeah, I like to act like I'm going to use this thing. No, I do sometimes, if it doesn't end up with a nice one in the middle. Now, that, again, is my little weirdness, because I like, when you're looking down on these things, I like to see that bead and not wire. That's just me. As, you know, it's not like anyone, I don't even know if anyone even noticed. Okay, so, and notice how I still compulsively, I like to bend them as I go. Okay, not that I'm always using, but these long continuous loops I basically just use for chrysanthemums. Okay, so one more, because I'm going to show you that I don't, now again, I would go, oh, if I'm looking at this wire, I'd be like, ooh, that's little, you know, and I'd use a few of these to pull up and make it straight. Okay, so we're going to dump some. Come on down. There we go. So, and my hands are not great today, actually, so this is a good example of a not great day. Well, I don't know. On my scale, it's a medium not great day. Okay, for them. Now, again, I'm just, as you notice, I'm holding it tight here, so there's already no gaps. So this is just something you start to do kind of automatically. And then I'm holding it like this so that already, that's not a gap. That apparently is a different color bead that got stuck in there. So we'll just appreciate it for its individuality. Oh, there's a couple of those in there. How did that happen? Well, anyhow. Okay, so that happens. So anyhow, we're going to push it back about 1/4 of an inch. Now at this stage, I'm just going to not even think about explaining it. I'm going to see what I would do. Now at this stage, I do that pinch. And again, under my finger, I can feel, under my thumb, I can feel that these 2 beads are together. So I'm feeling that. See, I'm pulling this right now. And it's not going anywhere. It's not because I'm pinching it. My pinching is actually very light. But my pinching keeps the 2 beads in line. What's holding them, what's making me able to do this, is the 2 beads pushing against each other. The pinch is not what's doing it. The pinch is a very light pinch. It's just keeping the 2 beads next to each other and in line. It's not holding pressure on them. So if you get to that pinch and you get this, I'm trying to see, like, without explaining it. No, I still pretty much, sometimes I'll use my fingernail and push them up underneath there and then twist from there. And then if you notice, by the way, that your first twist is a little bit loose. See how that one's a little loose? There's a little gappage there. Then just twist into that. Do your next twist up into that, and that'll take care of it. So that's another thing. So even if you do, you keep twisting and keep that pressure on it. So even if your first twist isn't as like gap free as you would like. So, and there are some patterns and designs that want you to keep your, or you might have your own designs, or might even do it with these, where you want to keep your continuous loops open. That's just not what I'm doing here, because I want these to look like one thin petal at once. Yeah, let's do one more and just see. So I'm dumping down about 5 inches of beads. I seem to have lost one of my lighting things. I'll have to check on that. But in the meantime, we got that. I got a little bit darker. Sorry about that. So again, choosing 5 inches, just let's do a shorter one. Let's do a 4-inch one. Just because 5 inches is kind of annoying. But let's even do a shorter one. Let's do a 3-inch. I think they're annoying because they're like floppy. But to be honest, you know, at least you have something to hold on to. So here's a 3-inch one, right? And notice I'm always, okay, you'll start to do things kind of automatically. You notice I'm always doing this thing to make sure that this bottom is a straight, especially with the 24, because it's a thick wire, that this bottom ends up being like a sharp, like a straight thing. Okay, so then again, I'm going to push this back a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch, just a fingertip full. Bring this behind. Again, holding that tip right there, holding it so that underneath those 2 beads are working on against each other. And then apparently, so I was trying to do what I would naturally do. I use my thumbnail to help push up, and I keep it pinched at this stage. I'm not doing the underneath thing. You can do the underneath thing, but for me, it gets a little bit hard to hold, but you can definitely do it. It's better. I think it's easier on the starting ones, or it depends on my hands, but you can do the underneath thing where you're holding it like this and twisting it. So find which way is natural for your hands. I don't really have to close these. I'm not going to make anything with these. Though it's kind of a pretty blue. I never use it. It's kind of neat with the purple inside. I would never put it normally inside, but it's kind of makes it like a more interesting blue, because this is what it looks like without the purple going through it. That helps. Wire definitely can change the color of your beads, especially obviously your transparents or anything remotely transparent, translucent. Kind of like it better. I never use this because it's a little too bright for what I do, but there you go. Now it's kind of more, I actually like it better. Okay, live and learn. See, happy accidents. Kind of like that. Here all this time when I was sending out the beads, I sent out a lot of these blue beads because I bought a lot, and then I was like, they're so bright. But other people probably like the bright. So in that bead giveaway, I gave away, I don't have that many left now, but that's okay. So anyway, it doesn't actually matter what length I'm doing, right? Because I'm just demoing. So this is a little over 3 inches. So again, you can do that under thing, or you can do, once you get going, again, you're always just going to push, you're going to push it forward. So you have no gaps with this hand, pushing it forward by pinching the wire. Push this back about 1/4 of an inch. I go behind because I do my wrap away. But a lot of times I wrap towards me. Interesting. And other things I do, I always wrap towards me. Go figure. So now, right now, what I would naturally do is actually just keep the pinch, but use my thumbnail to push up against the bottom beads. And then I'm going to wrap. Oh, this is a wrap towards me. What am I saying? Okay, it is. Duh. So wrap towards me by pinching way at the bottom. And now again, if it gets a little bit loose at first, just keep going. If you keep twisting, the twist will build up and push more pressure on to the loop and push them away, especially if you're holding and the twisting is happening at the top as opposed to the bottom. And if you're holding it like this, that's how it is going to twist, because it doesn't have any room to twist in the bottom. So it will naturally try to twist up top. So you put it together and there you go. And so I don't know if this helps. Hopefully it helps. Just different ways to hold it. Again, I can't stop with the biting. So my way, is adapted for these hands. But that being said, hopefully that would work for more normal hands, for lack of a better word. More functional hands. Let's go with that. More functional hands. So let me put that away. So that's what we get, right? So again, it's all about pushing up on the bottom, and it's something that you kind of just get used to doing. Now, when you're a beginner, you just got to keep practicing. You might even want to, consider that your first, mum that you do, because it's a good practice, because you're going to do a lot of them. So that's another good reason to try this design. Any any continuous loop design, not just mine, but whoever's, is to get that practice, because the repetition is going to be what gets you, is going to be what helps you, right? It's going to be all about this repetition. So again, I straighten out, make sure you start with a straightened wire, and that's easy enough. Just grab a little thumbful and drag it along your wire. I didn't put much on this because I was only going to do a few. And then you have your continuous loops. We'll do one about that size. It doesn't matter, right? Why is even measuring? I think I was trying to do ones that are comparable to the pattern. So again, pushing back, bringing it around. Don't care what it looks like, just get it like that, right? Make a big loop. On your forefinger of your non-twist hand, you're going to balance them there, and you're going to hold your thumb over top to kind of protect them, to just keep them level with each other. It's not really to pinch at this stage, but you're going to pull then this wire, pull it down, and you are pinching. There's some force on it, but that's not what you're looking for. That's just to keep things going. So I am pinching. You can see the whites in my fingers. But the main thing is getting these two beads to collide so that they can't go past each other. And at that stage, you can either say, now you can pull past like what I just did. I'm trying to show you at the same time, so I'm getting a little too fancy. And that happens, and then you just go back, and do it again. At this stage, I definitely do more of the pinch fingernail thing, because it makes it hard to do the thumb underneath thing with these kind of in the way. So, and if you get the first twist, then you can move down. I think that's actually what I normally do. So I did the first twist, and then I move down and twist from there. And that will keep you having very tight loops like this, and off you go, Let's see, let's do one more. Turn it off if you're sick of watching me do, or, hopefully if you know how to do continuous loops, you're not watching this anyway. So, again, straighten. I compulsively straighten at the beginning of pretty much every continuous loop. So again, push forward, push back a little bit. With this one, hold it like right there, come around, underneath, right there on your fingertip, push, and then however your fingers can get kind of a little bit of play. But again, watch. Let me purposely, on this one, try to make the first twist a little bit loose. Okay, so look, right here's that first twist was a little bit loose. So let's see if we can fix that. So you can see you can see that there's some movement here with these beads, right? So if you get that first twist, oh, and I also lost a bead. It's just hard when I'm trying to show at the same time, because it does depend on this holding, right? So, okay, there we go. We got, and so I lost a bead, you put it back. Sometimes when I do continuous loops, I lose a bead in it while I'm twisting and I don't notice. And so there's just a bead in between the two continuous loops. It's a little lumpy on the stem wire, but it's not the end of the world. So you can pop it off with pliers, but you should be a little careful with that. So right now I can see that this one's a little bit loose, but if I hold this bottom up tight enough, once I notice that, if I'm holding it up and pinching still on it, then when I twist, the successive twists will actually, look, no play anymore. None. Not a one. Not one bead unturned. Okay. The other thing is you want to see, that's a kind of a messy twist, but it's no big deal. The other ones are actually like they're twisting like kind of like a rope. They're twisting with each other. This one, this wire kind of twisted around the other one. You want to make sure, that's another thing, it's just a better twist and less likely to unravel or move. You want to try to always make sure that they're both twisting at the same time like a rope, and not that one wire is twisting around the other wire, because then it'll slip. It's not the end of the world if that happens, but the way to do that again is to have kind of equal pressure between the two wires, so that when you twist, but see, I was so concerned about that little gappage that I kind of twisted a little bit with a little more pressure on one side. But again, it doesn't matter. It will matter sometimes, like if you're doing like a twisting around at the bottom of your basic frame, and if you got to be careful how you twist. Anyway, more on that later. So there we go. Give that a try. Again, just remember, it's just all about that kind of pinching and holding, pinching and holding. I don't think I have any other, nope. Oh, I could do a small one. Let's finish it out. Let's do a small one. I don't know, because it's good to notice those. So there we have about a 2-incher. So a small one. But the small one, by the way, notice that I kind of, I do these things that I don't even think about anymore, and you will too, is that I kind of push, as I'm bending the loop, I notice how my finger, without thinking about it, kind of pushed it up as I was bending it around so that I could get that loop, because sometimes with the small ones, they'll get a little, twisty. So there we go. Again, we're going at about 1/4 of an inch. About. Now this one, here's the thing, is once you get enough of these, they actually start to help you again. Because now I can hold on to this end. So, see, notice I'm holding on to these and actually using them to help me grip to make that underneath, to go underneath with my thumb. So you can kind of like, with me, I have to kind of change. But here's the problem. See, right now, this wire is twisting around this one because of the way I'm holding it. So I want it to do, and that won't be the end of the world, but the pinching makes it so it's a little more of a ropey twist, which makes them kind of lock in on each other more, as opposed to, because if this one just twists around this other one, then it can slide up and down on it. I mean, it won't matter when you're doing a series of continuous loops, because where's it going to go? It's in between two other loops. But it's something to be aware of when you're doing your twists. As you get going, your hands will start to do these things naturally. Right? And so there we have our flattened continuous loop with our one bead on top. And this would be I'm going to put this into what I call my bin of misfit toys. Basically, they're all my little experimental pieces. And then later on, like when I put in those fairy bouquets, those are all like petal sizes I tried, and I actually make, a flower out of one petal. I can do something with this. And then now I like the color too, because of the purple. So it will go into the bin of experiments and unused parts. The bin of unused parts. So there we go. And let me get to my camera so I can show you. And hopefully that helped at least a little bit. And just remember that sort of, you're getting those two beads against each other, and that's your deal. To do it. And then again, like I compulsively have to make them look. Now, if you get this, by the way, with your continuous loops, that means that's because they're super tight. And so these are bowing against each other, but that's okay. You can, do that jiggly thing, and they'll get lined up with each other again. Or leave them. I don't, who cares? But that's because this loop is actually really tight. So these two beads are pushing straight against each other, and there's no wiggle room. And you'll start to learn that it's like, sewing, how the tension, is so picky. But then once you figure out how tension works on your sewing machine, you just sew, and every so often you have to adjust it and figure it out again. But, it's not like the weird thing when you first start sewing and have to figure out why the tension is so weird. Okay, so there you go. There's some continuous loops. And now I like this blue color, so thank you for asking. Happy accident on that one. I mean, I did not like it before. It's a pretty color. I mean, it's a really pretty color. It's just too bright for what I do. But I feel like I can work with it with the purple wire in it. And I don't even mind the purple wire showing through. It's kind of dramatic. There you go. See, your question brought about an unexpected and happy result in that I now appreciate they're called Seafoam, which I don't get. My light blue Soul Gel beads. Okay, so hopefully that helped a little bit.